So, with us this week, we have a man that's been in the home media game for a very long time. I think I hate to make him feel bad here. I think even since maybe I was born, he's been on his way doing this thing from days at big studios like Sony or MGM, working his way up through there and going into different labels like Kino, working in Kino with Kino, and also working now, of course, as director of acquisition and sales with MVD Entertainment. We have Eric D. Wilkinson. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How are you? It's great
Oh,
to be here.
fantastic, man. This is my Friday, so this is a good way to start my weekend. So
Yeah.
now I'm relaxing, I'm winding down, and I get to have some drinks and talk with you and talk about my favorite thing, which is physical media. So
I love it. I
yeah,
can't get enough of it, man.
I can tell. I can tell
I
from your background.
I
yeah.
mean, it started when I was a kid, and I can't get it. I just can't get it out of my. I can't get it out of my system.
It's
You
your
know what I
first.
mean?
It was your first love, your first girl, and it's
It
just
really was. You know,
It,
I saw Star Wars in the theater in 1977. For me, it started out with movies, and it was like a trifecta of think of three movies: Star Wars, or maybe four: Jaws, Star Wars, Grease, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. After I'd seen those four films all in the theaters during their original theatrical runs, I was just nothing. I couldn't think of anything. I all my life I've wanted to do something with movies, and then as I got older, into the 80s and stuff, and discovered the video store. Then I knew it wasn't just movies I wanted, but even more so home entertainment. I just loved watching them. I love going to the movies, and I loved collecting them at home. I love the idea of being able to hold it in your hand.
yeah, definitely, and of course with the whole and I'm jumping around here, but of course with your brother, who I believe is the one that does your art, is what is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
my younger brother David is the graphic designer for every rewind cover, and
yeah.
every movie I've ever produced, pretty much everyone anyway. He's been my partner in crime, also since the 80s.
Yeah, I was gonna say because so there alone, you and your brother creating, the way that the MVD rewind collection stuff looks. It's that old school kind of
Yeah,
VHS look. So it's obviously that, and there's
yeah,
an example
yeah.
right there.
I was
One
like,
of my
yeah, I just took it out of one of my stacks here. I love that old school vibe, and that makes a lot of sense when you mention that because all the covers look like
video
old,
store,
like kind
yeah,
of beat up VHS covers that you would find in the video stores in the 80s or 90s, depending on what era you grew up. But I could see, I mean, Steven and I grew up kind of in the 90s, the same era, and growing up at that time, I can't we can't quite quantify it to people, can't quite, explain it to people of the uniqueness of it, you know what I mean? Like, you're in that movie world environment where movies are such a big part of your life, whether it be in the theaters or whether it be the home video market, it just kind of meshed together and just created like this subterfuge of just entertainment. And of
well,
course, all the different formats that were popping up at the time: laser discs, VHS, Betamax, later on DVD, and then of course, to where we are now. And it's incredible to get to talk to someone like you who has kind of seen it all, really,
yeah,
because you were there at the very beginning and then working also within the industry as it changes and as it evolved. I guess
yeah.
kind of like my question for you and kind of many people who do that is, you know, what is just your take on just the way it's evolved over the decades, grown, shrunk, all these kinds of things?
Well, when it comes to different formats, listen, studios are businesses, and their goal is to sell you and sell you again. So, when it started out with beta and VHS and Laserdisc, then we had CED discs. I'm trying to think. They had movies on 8 millimeter. I and then Not 8 millimeter. Well, 8 millimeter. They did put out like these reels of films way back in the 70s before you could even get tapes. I'm not going to get into that. But the 8 millimeter video format, that was also a format, and there's just been format after format. And the goal, I think, uh, uh, they want you to, listen, the studios want you to buy it and buy it again. So if you're going to sell me Star Wars on a VHS, and then you're going to sell me Star Wars widescreen VHS, then you're going to sell me on that laser disc, then you're going to sell it to me on DVD, then Blu-ray, then 4K, then super deluxe special edition. Here's the steelbook. I mean, the goal, listen, we're suckers for this stuff because you give me a good new package, I will buy the same movie over and over and over again. Evil Dead, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Halloween, Friday the 13th. I mean, I'm looking at my shelf over there, and it used to be when a new version came out, I could get rid of the old one. But as a collector, as I get older, I can't even do that anymore now. So now I have to have my Halloween VHS and my Halloween beta tape and my Halloween DVD and my Halloween, like I have them all. I'm embarrassed to admit it. We're not hoarders per se, but, and this kind of goes with what you were saying about the packaging. It's all really just about nostalgia. Uh, I I know a lot of people that, I mean, there's probably a lot of people that bought Vampire's Kiss from Shout Factory, and my version of it. I mean, what's on the disc is the same thing that you probably have on the Shout Factory disc if they didn't throw it out. Most people didn't, because I forget what other movie was on that disc with it. High Spirits, was it? I don't
Yeah, I know.
remember.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Should have been, if I was putting movies together, I would have put Once Bitten with with that. But that's just with Vampire's Kiss. But that's just me. But all for me, it's all just about the nostalgia of it all, really,
Yeah.
because I love all these formats. I loved how it's evolved over the years. And when a Rewind title comes out, my goal is to not just sell you the movie, but I want you, when you buy it, it has a feel to it that's intrinsic, that you can't. It's very difficult for me to describe. I don't want to be as blatant to say that I'm selling you back your childhood, but when you see a version that we put out, I want you to think about the first time you saw that movie sitting on a shelf of the video store. And I wanted to bring that feeling to you, because we don't have video stores anymore.
Yeah.
We have our basements. Our basements have become our video stores. And I want to give you something that you can display on your shelf that reminded you how you saw it when you were in the video store.
No,
If that makes sense.
I get exactly what you're saying. I've described physical media before as almost like kind of like a it's like we're putting memories on the shelf in a way. You know,
Yeah.
it's not only the memories of the film and the special features are like the memories of how it was made, but it's also for us as collectors, especially when we're buying things. Of course, we blind buy things, so sometimes we're learning about a movie for the first time through physical media.
Yeah.
But the stuff that we love that we buy, it's a time capsule for the memories we have with that relationship with that movie, and keep it, like you said, the look and the vibe that you bring to your releases is a reminder of that. It tries to capture that time when you would have seen it for the first time. And so, I think that's great. Yeah.
And you bring up something important too. You mentioned about blind buying something, and most of the titles that we announce and release, you're probably familiar with or have seen, but we do put things, I often put out things like we just announced Killzone. Not a lot of people have seen that, but the thing that I appreciate from the people that like and collect the MVD Rewind brand is, if I pick I don't just, I've been offered titles from the era that are just crap titles that it's got to have something going for it for me in order for me to put the Rewind thing on it.
Yeah.
I know that there are some titles that you're going to buy, that you or collectors are going to blind buy. And I want to make sure that I'm doing a good job in picking. If I'm going to offer something new, like a Monday Morning or a Killzone, I have to make sure that if I enjoy it, then I trust that you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
And when I saw, like Monday Morning reminded me of Tough Turf a little bit. It's funny, and I've told Don this too. I'm like, you almost made a cult film. It's got elements of like Tough Turf and 315, The Moment of Truth. It reminded me of that, and that's why I wanted. And it had never really, no one had ever seen that film, and I wanted to put it out and bring it out. I like to bring new stuff, and same with Killzone. I mean, Killzone's been out of print for 30 years.
Yeah,
So,
I got a chance to watch it. I mean, it was in a terrible, like probably a VHS.
Oh, did you see that VHS rip on
Yeah,
YouTube?
yeah. I watched it. We watched it to talk about it on the show, and
I watched many a VHS rip on YouTube.
Yeah,
So
talk about nostalgia.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been party so once in a while. I so like with Witch Trap and Killzone because you mentioned the nostalgia. So I have a guy near where I live that does a beautiful job of digitizing, especially VHS. I could do it here with my equipment, but it still looks pixely a little bit. This guy's got really good equipment, and every time I pick up one of these movies, if I have a VHS on my shelf, I drive it over to him. I have him digitize my tape, and then I put that on as a bonus feature because
Nice.
I know it's a DVD. I'm sorry, I know it's a Blu-ray, but why not, man? If
Yeah.
somebody wants that VHS aesthetic, here it is for you. Enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've thought about doing it myself. I've had some VHSs from my childhood. I've made some movies when I was a kid and stuff like that, and I've always wanted to go back and get them kind of digitized and looked at them. And
Yeah.
I do want to connect that to something with you because, of course, you were making movies when you were a kid too, and
Yes.
you have one of them that I was actually able to rent.
The
The
violence movie.
the violence movie, yeah. I was like, "Oh, man, his movie's on here." And, yeah, fun, man. I love seeing it reminded me of me making movies with my VHS camera growing up, just getting with
What
friends.
that is.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that. I love seeing that. I got some stuff I did with friends when I got a little older that I wanna eventually share more with people, because it all got knocked off the internet because, YouTube sucks. But,
Yeah,
but I'm gonna
with that was fun because it was something that I did with my brother
yeah.
when we were teenagers, and uh, a few years ago, a friend of mine, he doesn't work there anymore, but was working at the Sundance, had a streaming app or a streaming channel. He had seen it years ago and said, "Oh, I want to put that on Sundance." And I was like, "Are you crazy? You can't put it's a violence movie. It's not good enough for that." And I said, plus all the music. I mean, when you make a movie with your friends on a VHS camcorder, you use your records and things for the soundtrack, which is what we did. So a friend of mine got a job at Sundance and in acquisitions, and he wanted to put it on there, which I told him he was absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And I also reminded him, I'm like, look, we can't release this publicly. We don't own any of the music. And he said to me, "Well, you're a movie producer, fix it." So, I went back with my brother, the same brother who does the Rewind covers, and he oversaw, like, we redigitized all the footage, we re-edited the whole thing from the raw footage, and this time around, I hired Harry Manfredini, who did the Friday the 13th score,
Oh,
to
wow.
score the Violence movie because that's the soundtrack that I had used uh, for my original video, the Friday the 13th soundtrack. So he gave me my own. He made an original score for the Violence movie, which I'm super proud of. It was like a dream for me as a kid. Really, it was just cool as hell.
Yeah, man. I mean, I wish I could get a Michael Giacchino or somebody
Yeah,
to do one of my movies.
I mean, he's a legend. I mean, the guy's a
Yeah,
legend, and especially since it was his music that we cut it to originally, to have him go back and give us an original score, and not one of the scores. He first tried to direct me to his website because I think he sells like music that you can buy from his website that's royalty free and just put it in your movie. I
yeah,
said, no, 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 no. I said, I want it original. I said, I will pay. I paid him and everything. I said, give me a quote and tell me how much it costs. It's got to be original. It's very important to me that it was original. So
yeah,
that was kind of cool.
yeah, man. Yeah, that's awesome. And like and then from there, at some point, you got into producing some stuff, and
Yes,
you did
I
did a
never
film called
directed, but I produced.
yeah, you did a film called The Man from Earth.
Man from Earth. Yep,
Yeah,
that's my first movie as a producer. That was shot in January of 2006 and came out in November the following year.
yeah, I really wanted to check it out. I didn't get a chance to, but
It's
play
on Tubi.
yeah, well, that's why I
Oh,
was definitely wanted to check it out because I knew it was available, and I'm still going to do that. But yeah, tell us about that experience being a producer on a film.
Well, I at that point I had from 2000 to 2005. I worked at MGM, and during that time there, you know, you really I spent a lot of time with and gotten a lot of experience with a lot of both catalog movies and all kinds of new releases. And you start to take, as for me, I started to take note of the, especially a lot of the United Artists films and these independent releases, what genres did better than others, how much they grossed, how many units they shipped. And then I started to get a sense of, you know, if I could make I was going to say regardless of the budget, but if I keep I should say if I could make one of these. I would say if we could keep the budget to a reasonable amount, and based on all the data that I had acquired over that time, uh, on how many units I knew I had an idea of how many units I think we could sell, how much money would come back to us, and that pretty much dictated what the budget of the film should be in order for us to not lose money, unless we failed spectacularly, if I said that right. And it's what we did. We sort of I call it reverse engineered that film, in that we knew it had to be a science fiction film. We knew it had to have a couple of names in it, and we sort of set out to find the right film to fit that mold. And my friend Richard Schenkman, who directed the film and co-produced with me, um, had a script that was written by Jerome Bixby. He had a relationship, a friendship with Bixby's son, Emerson. Emerson gave Richard the script. Richard sent it to me and said, this is it. We want to try to make this with me. And I did. And I took my severance package, which was supposed to be for my family to live on while I found another job after MGM was sold, and put it all in that movie. I
Wow.
bet on myself, but
Wow.
the first film did very well.
Yeah, I was gonna say the reviews I've looked on it, people seem to really enjoy it, and
Yeah.
that's great. It's great to hear when people take chances and it works out for them, because if it didn't work out, I mean, yeah, I mean, you got a family, you got to, that's a hell of a. How did the family feel about that?
Well, I didn't have any kids back then,
Okay.
but my wife's always been exceptionally supportive, and uh, she knew that I knew what I was doing, and
Yeah.
she had known that I had done my homework going into this, or trusted. And listen, it was a gamble, but it was, if I'm going to put money into a movie, it's going to be something I'm going to, I'm not that I don't want to put money in other people's movies, but if I want to bet on myself. I want to,
Yeah.
put it all on Eric the Red.
Well, that's, I mean, if you have a good wife, and they believe in you, and she believes that she knows you better than anybody. She knows that you're really obsessed with film
She
and
knows
just,
that.
yeah.
Mm.
So she knows that if you're passionate about it and you're showing it and you're willing to do what you're doing, that it must be worth it. It must be worth taking a chance. So that's good.
We made that. Listen, especially with the home video business, and it was 2007, and digital was in its infancy.
Yeah.
But we made that knowing, Richard was more, as far as we fit well as producers, and that creatively, Richard taught me a lot about the creative side of the business. That was my first film, and the part that I brought to the table and part to the team was I'd worked in the home entertainment business. I understood sales, who was buying these kinds of movies, where they were selling, how many units they were selling. So it all came together rather, it just came together perfectly. And it was just it's a great script with a great story. We were fortunate enough to put together a cast. The writer of the script was also the writer, one of the original writers from the original Star Trek series.
Oh,
So
wow.
we cast. If you look at the cast, there's like 4 Star Trek alumni in our cast. We were very, we wanted to put together the right thing. I call it my Clerks, because like Clerks, it's very talky. There's not a lot of locations, pretty much one location. We shot the movie in January of 06. It took a little while to get it done, because we had raised enough money to get the movie in the can, and we continued to raise money during post-production to get it done. We sold it to Anchor Bay, and then they hired me to go work there, which was nice. So I
I
was
was gonna
there when the
say.
movie was. I was there when the movie came out. It was a little weird there, because here I am. My name's producer of the movie, and at the same time, now my job there was not really in acquisitions; it was in sales. But I basically turned out that I made a movie and then went back to my day job and I was selling my own movie.
Boring. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
I know.
No, I was
You had to sell
kidding.
yourself basically.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just trying to adjust this. Yeah, you're right. I basically had to. I was selling myself. I was telling people I made. I made the movie. Please buy it. Probably helped a little bit. Maybe they felt bad for me. I don't know.
At least you knew the product very well. But I wanted to go back and ask you kind of how you got to kind of that point of doing both the home media stuff as well as the movie production stuff. Was that always like a goal for you? Like growing up, was that like, did you want to be in the movie making business, or did you just happen to fall into that?
Like I'm torn really because I wanted. I when I was a teenager and it's what of a nerd I was. So like back then, new release days were Thursdays, and I'd go to the video store on Thursday. First on my bike, and then in my car when I got a driver's license and I would rent all the new movies. And the guys, this was my favorite store. Originally was Errol's Video, and then became National Video. And I made friends with the National was a smaller store chain, a little more personable. And I made friends with the guys that owned it, and they would give me the previous week's video store and video business magazines. So in those magazines, you had all the ads for the movies and articles about the business, and it was great because I educated myself on both the players in the home entertainment industry and also all the companies, all the big studios and all the independent direct to video studios. I got my education through reading Video Store and Video Business magazine, but I always remembered, and I think it was an ad for a Fox title, but I remembered on the bottom of one of the ads it said uh, that the corporate address for Fox Home Entertainment was on Avenue of the Americas in New York City. And I made a mental note at 16 or 17 years old that I'm going to get a job at Avenue of the Americas in New York City and I'm going to work for some home entertainment company. That's where I want to work on Avenue of the Americas. And then fast forward to 2000 when I had my first I got invited to interview at that job that I got at MGM, and I asked, oh, I'm on the phone. I said, do you have the address? And they told me it was on the West 55th Street, Avenue of the Americas in Manhattan. And I had to get that job. I knew before I went into that interview, I knew I was getting that job. I don't want that to sound cocky or overconfident, but I just knew I was getting that job. I was going to beat
It was
everybody. I was going to be the
destined.
best.
It was destined, man. I
It
mean,
was
sometimes
destined. I really believe it
yeah,
was destined. When they
yeah.
told me that job interview was on Avenue, the address was, I think it was like 1255 or something. I forget the address, but I knew Avenue of the Americas. I was getting that job.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, honestly, what I think a lot of successful people do, and especially in the entertainment business, is you have to go in feeling like you belong, like
I did.
you
I
have to,
felt like it's
yeah.
exactly how I felt. And to answer your question, Andrew, I was torn because I loved home entertainment, and I was really at that point. I mean, I had a degree in marketing and business administration from college, uh, but I couldn't get any. I always remember that line from Secret of My Success, where Bruce McGill says, "If I give you a job that gives you experience, you're just going to take that experience and go out and get a better job." And I couldn't get anybody to give me a job to give me experience. I worked at a video store. I spent a little time at a distributor, but I was years behind the people that I was reading about in the magazines, and I had to compete with those guys to get this job. And uh, I was torn because part of me I have a creative side and I want to make things like or produce things and write things, and at the same time, I really want to work in the home entertainment business. Even now, the most rewarding I think back in my career and all the cool things I've gotten to do, but working on this rewind collection, it's like a dream come true for me. I mean, it really is. I just absolutely love it. I love it because I'm making things that if I didn't make it, I would be buying I'd own every one of them. I would buy them all.
Well, don't you? Don't you have all of them?
Mm.
Well, I do have
Or
all of
does it?
them, but a perk of the job, and this is the
Yeah,
other thing that I learned going back to the '80s and making friends with the guys that owned the National Video franchise.
yeah,
I didn't know these things existed, but one time I went in, they got to know me so well. They started giving me screeners. Video stores would get the VHS screeners for promotional use only. Usually, the big movies never. Back then, not all the big movies got screeners. But the direct to video movies, like The Sleeping Car, I remember he gave me that one. I'm trying to think of some of these other ones. He would give me the screeners because they didn't want to watch them because they knew they were cheesy, bad B movies. But they would hand them to me and say, Eric, they knew I was renting movies, so I was paying money. And then would give me like 3 or 4 screeners. Like, you can take these home and watch these, bring them back when you want. Tell us what you think of them or if you would buy them. And I was like, a light bulb went off in my head. I said, what, for free? And they said, yeah. I'm like, do you get these for free? He says, yeah, the studios send out screeners for us to watch to decide whether or not we want to buy something. And that is when I knew I had to work I said, well, if I work in the home entertainment business, I can get free movies, which is
I
part
know.
of the reason why I work in this business. Literally,
Forget about getting paid.
it's as good as getting paid for me. I mean,
yeah,
the downside is like I like when Criterion is a sale and I get something, I can't wait to get that Thelma and Louise 4K, right? Like I don't get
yeah,
that free. I got to buy that. And there's something to be said for when you know it's coming out in 4 months and you're waiting and you order it and it finally either you go out to Barnes and Noble or it gets mailed to you, you finally get it to be excited to watch it. So like by the time like I have watched Rain Man, which I love, but I don't get. I'm disappointed that by the time that comes out, I've seen it like 7 times because I have to watch the check disc over and over and over again to make sure it works. Like Jack Frost 2 was a nice. Oh, we're back. Did you guys disappear or did I disappear?
no, you did, yeah,
Yeah, for a second.
Oh,
yeah, for a
okay.
second there,
I was gonna say that I've watched Jack Frost 2, The Revenge of the Killer Snowman, at least 15 times because you remember when we put that out and I had the wrong
yeah,
version on the disc. You have no idea how many times I've watched it. So the one thing I don't like, the one thing I that I don't like is I get to see the movies early, but I miss the excitement of getting it, opening it up with the packaging and everything because
yeah.
I've been working on it for a year. So
Yeah,
I got
being involved in it, yeah, being
yes.
involved in it kind of takes away that being a
The
fan of it
the
for a little
collector
bit,
of
you know?
me. Like
Yeah,
by the time I get my because I get samples of everything I work on. By the time I get it, I've seen it so many times it literally just goes on the shelf. And then I have to
yeah,
wait like a year or two when I'm ready to watch it again. You know, if my son wants to watch it, then I get excited to pull it out. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
know I'm
Now
rambling on about like it's all the random thoughts that go through my head here.
no, no,
No, no, it's fine.
no, it's
That's kind of
cool,
the way
man.
my brain works as well. I
Yeah,
mean, I guess getting into your work since you brought it up, we won't get a better segue than that. So working in acquisitions and stuff like that, just what goes into that? Are you contacting other companies to get rights and stuff? And how is all? You don't have to
Yes.
give us the minutia of it all, but just an
No,
overall
it's
general thing.
think of it this way. Like, have you ever I don't know how you guys collect, and there's no like doing acquisitions, it's like the world is your video store. Do you know what I mean? When you go into a video store or a store that has physical media and you're shopping, I literally treat acquisitions like I'm shopping. And I'm buying movies for my collection. Except the difference is instead of buying a copy for me to take home on the shelf, I'm licensing the rights to that movie. You know what I mean? I'm collecting movies for the company.
yeah,
So I literally found a job where I can collect movies and
yeah,
get paid
yeah,
for it. It's beautiful. But yeah, I spend my time um, either trying to we don't have a lot of studio deals. Part of the reason why the MGM went a little easier with us is because I worked there for 6 years and I know some people over there. So that gave us a little bit more access to that. Like I would love to have a deal with Paramount and Warner and like do have what shout or like Mill Creek. Don't get me started on Mill Creek. I would kill. Did you read that thing recently where Mill Creek re-upped their deal with Disney?
I did.
I
Yeah,
We
mean,
yeah.
covered it. We
it's
covered it.
just so I'm so jealous of it. So jealous. This is how crazy it is. I'm friends with the guy over there. I'm not going to drop names. I'm friends with the guy over there. And the day that announced, this is how crazy I am. I I sat up one night from between midnight and 3 a.m. I created it. This is the collector in me, and me thinking of all these collectors out there. I created a detailed spreadsheet with two tabs. One said Touchstone, the other one said Hollywood. I listed every title that they own, broken down by studio, and ranked them. And then I made like boxes. This should be new transfer, Blu-ray, 4K, and literally rank them and send it over to them. Now, will they use it? I don't know. But I'm thinking like, I don't even work for them. Christ, if my boss sees this, he's going to be like, "You're doing what for what company?" But like,
Yeah.
it's the collector in me. Like, that's a really great deal that they have. Like, Disney does not give access to anybody. There are very few people to their catalog. And listen, I love Mill Creek. I know they get a lot of grief in the quality of some of the quality of their releases, but as a collector, I would say to anybody, look, I'd rather have a crappy copy of I'm trying to think of one of the I'm trying to think of one of the movies they put out. I'd rather have a crappy copy of a movie than none on Blu-ray than none at all.
Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
just
I've
having an
said this.
access. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say this. I've said this for years, specifically when it comes to the television on home media market, which I think is a whole other separate can of worms discussion. Mill Creek is kind of the only one, not the
Yeah,
only one, but they're keeping it afloat
they really
for a
are.
lot of deep catalog stuff that, frankly, I've assumed over the years that their home studio doesn't have an interest in creating.
I,
You know, a
I
lot of the catalog stuff.
I almost wish it's so funny because we just got done. That's why I mentioned your name, the Billings name. We just got done watching my son and I just watched The Shield all the way through. And if Mill Creek, and this is if Mill Creek, if you're watching this, this is a compliment. First of all, their TV box sets and that box set of The Shield is fantastic. It's really well done. I wish that they would give the attention they give Miami Vice and the Shield and some of the other TV collections they do to their movies because the box sets are great. The packaging has a magnet on. You open it up and it's got like a police badge that's raised off the thing and opens up this nice booklet. It's beautiful. And then they put out like these DVDs. I'm like, come on, do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It really all depends on. I have no idea. You know what more it depends on, but it's like you do see varying quality when it comes, I think, to every
You
studio
do.
based off of the title.
You
Because
can.
I brought this up for years. When Universal was putting out like their 100th anniversary year
Yep.
Blu-rays, and some of the transfers were just frankly not great.
No,
And
they
then they put out
recycle the
Jaws.
same ones.
Yeah, then they put out Jaws at the same time, and it looked amazing.
Yeah,
And
but
I'm like,
Jaws is Steven
yeah,
Spielberg.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's the point I'm making is that like it's because it's Jaws, they put in the extra effort, the extra
They do.
money, they put in all the bells and whistles for that. But when it was like the Deer Hunter or something like that, or the Sting, they didn't quite put in
And it's
as much
weird. They're
effort on
both
those.
Best Picture winners, but you can tell. Listen, you can tell the companies uh, when there's a geek making doing the decision making. I don't mean geek in a bad way, but like, listen, Vinegar Syndrome, hands down. Listen, I love our slip covers and the stuff that we do, but I bow down to Vinegar Syndrome. I can't do what they do. I mean, I could, but I don't have the manpower. I wouldn't want to try to compete with that because I can't. I just can't.
Yeah.
They have their. You can tell when you look at a studio like Vinegar Syndrome how their transfers are fantastic. That like they approach things the way a geek or a collector would approach it, and versus somebody at Universal. I'm not saying the person at Universal doesn't care, but maybe they don't want to give that B movie a better transfer, or like, frankly, you told me that they put the Sting out with an old master. I find that inexplicable. It's a Best Picture winner. Same with The Deer Hunter. It's Michael Cimino. It's a
Yeah.
Best Picture winner, and it's their 100-year anniversary with 4K. Like they did that. It was only a few years ago, but you'd think that they would be doing 4K scans of those and
Oh,
preserving them.
well, yeah. Well, they ended up. Well, ironically, is
It
I'm
goes to
talking about they
yeah.
went back and then reissued them in
Yeah.
4K recently. And they look fantastic, and because they went back and did the work, they went back, did the remastering, they did all that stuff. I'm talking about stuff they put out in like
Yeah,
2011,
I remember.
2012.
I have a bunch of them where they had the sort of the gatefold slipcover
Yep.
openings. Yeah, I
Yep.
mean, what drives me nuts is I don't like it when a studio does a cash grab and just gives you a new slipcover, or they'll take the same movie and they'll just stick it in a steelbook. I think they just announced another Terrifier 2 steelbook. It's like, but they didn't do it. There's like, really, you're, and I feel bad because there are collectors. Listen, we suffer as collectors. We suffer from OCD. We see that we have to have it. Like we can't not buy those things. And I feel bad. I feel bad. I'm also guilty too because I number the rewind collections because I know the people with OCD will buy the lesser rewind titles because they can't have
Well,
that missing number in their collection. Sorry.
Very true.
you know as somebody yeah, but you know as somebody that there's a realisticness to this whole thing is that as much as we're geeks and we want to put the passion into it, it is a business, and you
It's a
have
business. Listen,
Right.
but
they have to
and it
understand.
has to keep
Sorry.
going where you have to do the things you have to do to persuade people to buy your thing.
There are some
So
titles. Listen, I have to. When we were originally working on Rain Man, we were going to use. They had a 4K master that was not
yeah,
HDR or didn't have Dolby Vision. That frankly looked pretty good. I mean,
yeah,
I got down to the check disc with that. This was, last year. We were getting ready to go to print on this. And my boss, who's not a geek, but saw or somebody, I think Bill Lustig told him about the chatter online, how there's a, a minor but loud group of people saying that they might not buy it if we didn't if we did a 4K that wasn't HDR. And God bless my boss, approved the budget and let me go back and read. That's what's taking so long with the movie. But I got to
yeah,
tell you, watching it last night, it looks pretty spectacular. It all comes down to budget. There are some titles that I focus on bonus features and packaging. There are other titles that maybe I don't have it in the budget to make a lot of bonus features, but I have a good transfer. We try to do our best, but always I want to, at the very least, if I don't have a lot of bonus features, I want to make the packaging as special as possible, make it as cool and as retro and it's fun to. But you'll notice with our releases that I don't price gouge. So a title like if they have less features or it doesn't have a new transfer, if I didn't spend a lot of money bringing it to market, the suggested retail prices are 24 or 19.95. So that way Amazon
yeah.
has them for set between I'd say $12 and $17. Even though that we don't have a set SRP. If I spend a lot of money on a release, it's going to have a higher SRP. But if it's a title that already came with a few bonus features, maybe it's been out before. Those I give. I don't price gouge the customers. It will come out at a $20 or 22 or 24 at the most suggested retail price to keep because I know that the collectors spend a lot of money and I'm not going to sit there and take advantage of it.
No, I think that's great, man, and I think there's a lot of collectors that I mean we've talked about this before. There's all different types of collectors, and they collect in different ways. And I think the collectors that are not so interested, they're not so focused on like all the bells and whistles, and needing to have all the like crazy deluxe editions that are being put out. But they look at some of these labels, and there's certain labels that are more economical friendly. Like I think your label is a more economically friendly
Love it, yeah.
label. Yeah, and and I think like a Kino Lorber is an economically friendly label. That their stuff is not always super expensive. Eureka in the UK is
Yeah, they're
always
good.
pretty good about
But
their prices.
at the same time, at least when I spend money on a Vinegar Syndrome title, you know, I know people complain about the pricing sometimes. I read about some people, but you're getting quality for that money. You are
Yeah.
getting quality.
You're
Definitely,
paying you're paying a premium price for a premium
You're
product
not
in
getting
both.
cheap. There's those
Yeah.
packages probably I don't know what they're spending on them, but even just to have one of those magnetic boxes made is probably $10.
yeah. Yeah,
but
and
it's
there's nothing wrong with that much being put into it and paying that price. It's just there's some collectors that don't care about getting that craziness, getting things like that big limited edition thing or whatever. They just want the movie.
yeah.
And your label and then some of the other labels that are more economically friendly provide that for a lot of people. And I think that's a good thing because we don't want to put the collecting community at this level where it becomes almost unattainable for most people. Some people can't spend the money on all
Right.
the limited edition indicator box sets. They can't do that, but maybe in the US there's some single editions of some of the movies that make it easier for people to have
Oh,
the movies.
I was actually just gonna wonder when it came to like licensing and stuff. Do you ever like, you know, hit certain walls or do you or is that kind of more of a parody thing? Basically, are there titles that you've gone after and someone's kind of like gotten them before you got to them?
Well, that happens. What I've tried to do is there's a lot of really good positive community. Like, first of all, I worked at Kino Lorber, so I know everyone over there. I'm friends with the guys at Shout Factory. I'm friends with the guys at Vinegar Syndrome. We just obviously I know all the labels that the MVD's labels that we distribute. So Blue Underground, Synapse, Severin, VCI. Like, I know all these guys, so we all have good communication. I try to do my best to communicate with them. They know the move. When I picked up Rain Man, I asked Kino and Shout Factory, I said, "Are you guys chasing this title? If not, I'm going to chase it." You know what I mean? Like, we sort of have at one point Hannibal. We had Hannibal, but I knew Kino Lorber honestly was going to. I wasn't going to do a new transfer, and I knew Kino was going to. So I gave that title up as a collector because I wanted that. They were going to make a better 4K than I was.
Yeah, I think that was their first
It
4K, if
was.
if I
It was
remember.
good. That title was in our first batch of MGM titles. We had it, and I literally gave it back because I think the collectors deserved better. Not that I would have done a very nice job with it, but the collectors, I knew what Kino was going to do with it, and I thought the collectors deserved better than what I was going to do, and which is what he did.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know there's probably some friendly competition out there
There
that goes
is,
on
of
with some of
course,
the.
of course.
Yeah, yeah, but it's like you've said this whole time. You're a geek. You love this stuff. You just want to see it out there,
There are movies
and
that
yeah,
I literally I've given to other that I had access to or said to one of the other companies. I want. There's a movie right now. I'm not going to say what it is that we're picking up, and I'm going to share it with Vinegar Syndrome because they're going to do a version of it first before we do. But I literally gave it to them because they told me what they're going to do with it, and I'm like, the collectors deserve that. I want that. We're still going to
Nice.
get to I'll still put out my cheaper version for those who
yeah,
are budget conscious, but like, I'm okay with that. Like, we're not
yeah,
greedy. There's like, what's frustrating to me is when there's something I want so badly and just can't get it done, just can't get the
yeah,
deal done. Like, I've been asked since Rewind started for King of the Kickboxers, and I want it so bad. And I've talked to the guy that owns it, and I have begged him. I literally emailed him again. My emails go back 7 years to this guy,
man.
and I'm still emailing him every day. I want to put that out. And like, it's become, an obsession for me. Like, that's a movie I want. I wanted Dogma really bad.
Mm,
We had Dogma briefly, but I'm not
That
going to get.
damn.
that right now is kind of a big question mark. I see people on TikTok, Instagram talk about Dogma right now
You
because it's
know,
kind of it it went out of print and then it's kind of just floating out
Well,
there.
it's yeah,
well, it's
it's a
And
not
then
floating out
Miramax.
these
there.
yeah,
It's
There are three movies that Miramax made during its time at Disney, and the part of Miramax's deal with Disney when Disney bought Miramax and was run by Harvey and Bob, that if Miramax ever made a movie that Disney didn't want to distribute, they had to buy it back from Disney. I don't know the exact arrangement of the deals, but
mhm.
as I understand it, they would buy that back from Disney at cost, and they were free to take it elsewhere. And that happened three times, if I'm remembering correctly. The first time was Kids. The second time was Dogma. The third time was Fahrenheit 9/11. Now, as you know, we have picked up and put out Fahrenheit 9/11, and the kids and Dogma remain in purgatory because they are owned by Harvey Weinstein, and they're unobtainable, is would be the word I would use to describe it. And
Yeah.
Kevin
The
Smith has talked about it too. I've talked to Kevin about it. He knew that we're going to put them out and was going to work with us on them, and we, for a brief time, we thought we had it, and then the entity that felt that they owned it realized that they didn't, and we had to give it back.
Hmm.
Yeah, the point I'm making is that like that original Blu-ray and the DVD now on the third party market is, jacked
Crazy.
up in price.
It's crazy.
And it's like if I had known that if I had known that years ago, I probably would have bought more of them, because I
Yeah.
I mean,
have the
but
Blu-ray
it's
that I
like
bought like over a decade ago for like $10.
these are like little stocks for us. You know what I mean? There are some of
Yeah.
them you
Yeah.
buy that you can find at Dollar Tree for 50 cents. And there's other ones like you look up on eBay, like, holy shit, this is going for a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially stuff that's in the boutique market because they're typically limited to couple of hundred, couple of thousand copies.
You know,
Once they go,
but you
people
got to
just
be careful with the word
goes
limited, and
up.
I'll tell you why. First of all are we still there? Do we crap
Yeah. You're
out?
good. You're
I'm
good.
still here.
You're good.
Ah,
You're good.
Yeah, he's still good. Or did he? Is he not seeing us?
no, I see you just came back now. You there? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good. We hear you.
Okay, I'll just start with what I'm saying. You have to remember,
Limited.
all of these are technically limited editions because the studios own them and we're just licensing them for a certain period of time. However, when a company so if a company like say Twilight Time puts out a 3,000 unit limited edition and their license expires, of course somebody else is going to pick up some of those movies and put them out again. That version might go out of print, but Action USA was a limited edition with Vinegar Syndrome. The rights reverted back to the owner, and they brought it to us. I was like, yeah, I'll put that out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's, and so long as people are buying physical media and it's still something that it can be a viable option to make some money for any company, movies are going to get licensed and they're going to get put back out. I mean, and
Yeah.
of course, the most popular films are always going to get put back out. We're going to see, as Andrew's brought up before, Jaws. We're going to keep seeing Jaws for its 150th
Oh,
anniversary.
we're gonna
We're
see.
going to see,
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Eric. Star Wars is probably one of the most re-released movies ever in every format over and over again.
Yeah.
Die Hard was another one that just like every year they'd come out with a new Die Hard,
Uh,
but just put it in a different packaging with John
I mean,
McClane wearing a
I
Santa hat.
love it. I have the Nakatomi Plaza thing is my favorite packaging for that.
I have it too. It's up on a shelf over here. Yeah.
Unopened, of course.
Well, no, I opened mine. I'm sorry.
Well, I had the discs already. I only bought that because I wanted it because it's a statue.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, it's literally a statue of the Fox building in Century City. It's not, but it's still
Yeah.
cool as hell.
No, I love it too. Yeah. Sometimes you get some of them things like that are really gimmicky, just because you just need to display it in your room.
I mean,
It's
I have the Terminator 2 arm and I have the head, the skull. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking the Lionsgate, they need to put out like the torso and the leg. I could build a Terminator with
You
these
could build a
parts.
Terminator. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I didn't even open those. I did get my arm signed by Eddie Furlong though.
Oh,
Nice.
nice,
It is
nice.
nice. $50.
Yeah,
Wasn't free.
yeah, the Terminator is a franchise that I for a long time always wanted to like make my own Terminator movie. That was like the movie that really inspired me to want to get, because like this, like I mean, like The Matrix was the movie that got me into filmmaking, but like the Terminator, the story of the Terminator always interested me a lot because of the time travel element
Loved it.
and just how simple it is yet complicated. So yeah, yeah,
I mean, I don't mean to bemoan this, but we still need a really great edition of Terminator 2. There's always been issues
Really?
with there's always been issues with the transfer.
Well,
The original
go ahead.
Blu-ray looked good, and then they went and did a lot of DNR on
Okay.
the subsequent editions afterward. Even the 4K I heard had DNR master issues or something. and that was always been something that people have talked about in the community a while. Predator was the same way.
Well, Predator,
Predator
you got
for
to remember
years.
when they were doing a lot of the DNR of the standard Blu-rays were coming off of the fact that they did 3D conversions of the films, and that DNR I
Oh,
think was being applied in order to enhance the 3D maybe. Uh, so like with Predator, which I love the 3D version, and I don't like DNR, but when I'm watching the 3D version, I live with it. You know, I know everybody looks waxy, and same with the Terminator 2 3D, which of course had to import because for whatever reason, inexplicably, Lionsgate didn't put that out in the U.S. But with the Terminator, they've certainly made nice special editions of it. I agree that maybe could they go back to do the transfer again? Uh, they could, but you're at the mercy of somebody had asked me about. They were worried, I guess, with us doing a new transfer of Rain Man, if we were going to, eliminate the grain in the film or something. And luckily, Barry Levinson seems to be a purist, so the grain and everything's that was inherent to the image remains. But you
Yeah.
have some filmmakers like, if James Cameron doesn't like grain, then and he and has final cut on his movie and he decides it has to go, then the studio has no control over. If James Cameron says DNR this thing, then he gets DNR'd.
yeah,
Yeah.
you always see those director approved transfers and stuff, but I do for the people listening, they did eventually put out Predator in 4K, which looks fantastic.
Yes, they did.
They
They
put out
did
a
correct
couple of
Predator,
sets.
and Patton was another one that had a lot of DNR.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
One
am
thing I wanted to
guilty.
ask you.
I am guilty of when I was at Olive Films, and I didn't get to do the transfer, but I did. I did greenlight the release. Is Moontrap is the most DNR title in the history of DNR, and I put that out. I am sorry. I oversaw that release. I'm ashamed to admit.
Hey, it
Hey,
happens to
it
the
I'm
best of
happens.
us.
trying
It
to
happens.
correct it. I've been talking to the owner, the rights holder of that, trying to get it back, and I want to scan the negative. And if we can get that
Yeah.
movie, I promise I'll fix it.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
people
you heard it here,
people don't
guys.
realize that Olive Films, they put out a lot of stuff that wasn't out on Blu-ray before.
Yeah.
A lot of classic movies for the classic movie fans. Those Blu-rays are still in our collections, and other companies haven't really gone back to them yet.
Well,
But I think with licensing, they will.
yeah, the license. I can. I know. Obviously, I did the MGM deal. I was part of the MGM deal that happened when I was there. So, and I picked all those films. Uh, Without getting into details, if you think back into 2014 and 2015 and how quickly those titles were released on, we literally did the deal and we put them out all at once. I wasn't allowed to make special editions. I didn't, they, I tried to explain them what I wanted to do with the packaging, with the retro look and everything I did with Rewind, I wanted to do at Olive, that I didn't get a chance to do. And I said, fine, I'm going to keep it in my back pocket. Some of those ideas ended up with the Vestron Video Collector series, and then the rest, all of it's in Rewind.
Yeah.
When it came to Olive, and I've always wanted to ask this, but I've never known anyone who's actually worked for Olive. Um, the releases being so kind of essentially just the movies, really, was it a kind of like a budgetary reason why like you weren't able to do like new transfers and put new features and stuff like that?
In some
Was it just because
ways,
they're kind of more cost effective?
uh, out of respect, I'll just say in some ways, yes.
Okay, that's
I
fair. That's
wish
fair. That's kind of what.
I could get into detail with it. I don't agree with how the films were handled. Unfortunately, uh, I did not have the creative freedom there that I have at MVD. And there's a reason why, that's part of the reason why I was only there for 14 months.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I just was always wondering certain things about that label because it was e- a lot. It was kind of like a deeper cut label. Like you like the titles you could only find. Like Barnes and Noble was the only place I knew that had them in stores at the time.
You know,
And I remember buying a few of them.
I will say this. At one point, they had there was what I call a dream team there. because he had two of the guys from Kino, one of which was one of the people that run the Kino Lorber Studio Classics. He had the other guy that does all the classic Kino stuff, and he had me there. And if uh, the executives or the powers that be at all films just got out of our way and let us do what we are very good at doing, we would have made him a lot of money.
Mm.
Fortunately for Kino, the two guys that left Kino that went to Olive went back to Kino, and I was fortunate to land at MVD and allowed the creative freedom and trust to build the brand and be able to give collectors the movies the way, not just the movies they want, but the way they want them.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense now that you kind of fill in the history
I mean, just
gaps.
look at the
Because
packaging. I mean,
yeah.
and you know what? You could tell it got really frustrating. My first, because I love retro packaging, and Slasher Video was another company that I brought over there, and my ideas for retro packaging were poor. I did not oversee that, but were, I'm going to say, poorly executed on that packaging.
Mm.
And I felt bad because I brought him on. The owner, I became friendly with the owner of that company. I brought him on, and then I left. And I really liked his brand. And I talked to him recently. I'm like, you should bring your stuff over to MVD. Your deal with Olive's probably expiring now. Let me have a shot, and let me correct what I couldn't do while I was there with your stuff. But I like slasher videos movies.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
when it comes to all the different labels you've worked at, you've mentioned them throughout this conversation. What do you in before you got to MVD? What do you think was the some of the biggest things that you got from working in them all them different companies? What was some of the biggest things that you learned that you didn't learn from your proper education?
I mean, what do I learn? I mean, I guess I learned to pay attention to the people that are buying the product. That's
Yeah,
the biggest thing that I learned. That you know, and to listen to because I was one of those people too, and I was always being told this is how you do this is how you do that, but I don't think anybody was like listening to the people that buy the product. And by the you got to remember, when I started at MGM, the internet was still in its infancy, but
yeah,
I was on the message boards, and I had already had a pretty sizable collection of that back then it was VHS, Laserdisc, in my beginning of what was my DVD collection. But like as the internet blew up and got bigger and bigger, I mean, I was on the digital bits, and I was on Blu-ray.com, and or I think it was it called DVD.com before that? I don't remember. But I was, you just read what the collectors want, and you learn. Even every time I pick up a new movie, I'm going on the forums on Home Theater Forum and Blu-ray.com, especially if it was something that was out before or whatever, and I want to read. Well, I read what they liked about that release, or if there was something left off or something done wrong. And I want to make sure that when I get that release, or if I ever get that movie, I want to do that right. I mean,
yeah.
it's no secret we have Swamp Thing. When you guys see what I'm doing with Swamp Thing, no one will complain about having to buy that again. I promise you that. And I've spent so
Nice.
much time with it, um, just pouring every ounce of to make this thing perfect. every
Yeah, and
so listening, that's the one thing that listen to your customers.
That's
no, I
that's
agree.
honestly the most important and appreciated thing, just coming from a consumer perspective and collector perspective, because it's nice that we're involved in some way,
I mean,
maybe indirectly, but because you can't satisfy everyone, but at least you
I
you
try.
understand that you're making a product for people to
I
buy.
try.
You know what I mean?
I read. I go on, and I should spend more times. Like I'm on. Sometimes I'll go on Blu-ray.com and answer a bunch of questions, but I'm really active on the Facebook page, and a lot of people seem to like to interact there. I read every comment. Try to respond to every direct message. I try to respond to every comment. I am listening to you guys, man. And there's nothing. I get so excited when I'm getting ready to announce a new title. I can't wait to get it up on social media and hear the
Yeah.
feedback. That's my drug. That feeds me, especially if they love it. I get all disappointed. Like, I always get nervous. Like, like Witch Trap, for example. I knew that was out before Vinegar Syndrome, and I got all I prepared the release. I was getting ready to post it. I'm like, I literally put in my post. You can read. I think it was that one where it said, "Please don't yell at me for announcing a title that was out before," because I don't, part of like there are sometimes titles that we get that I'm going to put out that were out before, because like Witch Trap was an easy turnaround. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've spent over a year plus on Swamp Thing. So it's nice to get a Witch Trap that came with bonus features, had a really beautiful Vinegar Syndrome transfer. The only thing I really worked on that one, I spent some time with the artwork. But other than that, like, I was nice to have a turnaround. Same with Killzone. Killzone came pretty much ready to go. I only had to put a little. I had a little bit of input with that, but they made bonus features, and so Killzone I wasn't worried about, but I always get worried if I'm announcing a title that's a re-release that was an old title before.
Yeah, it's understandable, because then you risk you're gonna always get the comparison thing. People are
Yes.
gonna say, "Why is this out?" Why, and then they compare it to the other release. But as we've said before during this conversation, sometimes things go out of print or something like that, and this is another option for people that
Yeah.
maybe didn't get it before on the first run when it was with the other company. So
Some of the
you know,
collectors think, some of the more opinionated collectors think that if I'm picking this up and putting it out, then there's not going to be enough money to get that other release that's never been out before,
yeah,
and that could be more wrong. If MVD is putting out a re-release of a title, it is not taking the place of any other title. It's doing two things. Like you said, if a title is, especially if it's something that's out of print, it's starting to go up, and I don't want people to have to pay exorbitant prices for titles. If it's out of print and it's available, and there's still demand for it, I'm going to put that out. And
yeah,
the other reason is it. I don't like to see things go out of print, and I don't like to see the price go. I put them out either to keep them from to fill the holes in our schedule, and to keep it so if the price is shot up, to keep the price down. I just
yeah, yeah.
and I like some of them. I just wanted. I look at the box. I'm like, and not the Vinegar Syndrome or another company doesn't do good packaging, but some of it, if it comes ready to go, like a Witch Trap, and I'm looking at that artwork, oh, I want to make a rewind cover for that. It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's just that simple.
You get excited and you want to put your own stamp on
I
it. And you want to
really
put,
do.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really
and
do.
that's great. I mean, I think the greatest thing about what we're learning here from you is that you're very much just a fan and one of us, and
Oh my
you're
god.
you're all
Yeah.
about
Well,
transparency.
that's nice.
That's one of the biggest
Yeah.
things is the
That's one of the biggest
transparency.
things we've learned about the most,
Yeah,
Steven, I would say. Your transparency when it comes to getting to interview people like you, Eric, and other people work at these other companies, is we learned that there is a consistent basis where everybody started out as a movie fan, and everybody started out as collectors. So it's like to see that as a consumer, to see that we have people on the inside, essentially like secret agents. It's like
I
it's
will.
really reassuring.
Well, I will say this also, Eric, is that out of all the guests maybe that we've had, you might be the one that oozes movie geekery more than any of the ones we've had on.
Oh.
Maybe
Oh no, Steven's
it's a
going
good thing.
now. No, don't lose, man.
He
No,
said
I'm
you might
here.
be. You said you might be the one that oozes.
Okay, yeah, that's a weird place for it to cut out. No, I think out of all the guests we've had so far, you might be one of the one that oozes the geekery more than anybody that we've ever had
I
on.
just I love it so. You have no idea. I mean, I can't tell you how much I love doing this stuff, and
Yeah,
just it makes me feel young. You know what I mean? I just keep
yeah,
thinking about how much all of us have video stores in our basements now. You know what I mean? We really do. And my son, who, I have a 16-year-old who gets two streams and everything, he's into that. He's on his phone, his iPad, but he has such an appreciation for physical media. You know what I mean? He'd like,
that's great.
uh, I love the thing about as collectors, you can't, you can't always find everything on streaming. Every time I think of a movie that I don't have that I want to watch, and I go to Netflix, and sure enough, not on Netflix. And I go to Hulu, and I subscribe to Hulu. I go to Paramount Plus, and like half the time, it's not on any of the subscription services. I can buy it or rent it, but like it's not on any of the services. All these services I'm paying for, and plus, you see it happen. these studios could pull these movies off these services whenever they want and it's gone.
Yep.
Or Disney could decide they're going to take the nudity. Not that Splash needs the nudity in it, but they could decide that they're going to digitally change the movie. Like, I want to make sure, you know, as part of my job at MVD is I'm an archivist. I want to make sure that I don't mind rescuing a well-known film any differently than I want to rescue a lesser-known film. I want to make sure that there's at the very least a DVD or a Blu-ray or 4K of that movie, so it's preserved on physical media, so somebody, if they want to see it, has access to it.
Yeah, that's why we love. That's why we do this show.
I mean,
We you know.
a perfect example of that is, and I'm still looking for a master. So we put out Project Metal Beast on DVD. I would kill to put that out on a Blu-ray and a 4K, but we just don't. No one's been able to locate the materials for that movie. And when I find a negative, even a 35, I have literally a saved search on my eBay. It says Metal Beast 35 millimeters. So if somebody ever tries to sell like a 35 millimeter film print, I'm literally going to buy it. I don't care how much it costs. I'm taking my credit card out and I'm buying that. So at the very least, I'll scan the print. But like, that's example. I said, well, that's an example of a movie that I would love to be putting on Blu-ray, but can't right now. But I'm not going to wait. I'm not going to not release that. I had an old, it was an old video. It was on a Beta SP, an old videotape master. I said, we're going to put that out on DVD. So at least it's out there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
someday I'm going to find that. We're going to find the negative, the inner positive, the inner negative, or a 35 millimeter film print. And I will put that out when, if and when that happens.
That's great, man. That's great. And so, coming to a close here, I
Sure.
want to talk about your just your collecting habits. Like, obviously, like I said, you're oozing collector, nerdiness. You're obviously got tons of shit in your basement there. We see just a
About
portion of it behind you.
11,000 I have like 6,000. I don't know. I have about 11,000 and counting.
Well, I was going to ask you how is your collecting habits, but apparently it's to buy everything.
I mean, yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say no. Would I buy everything? Like, I don't know if I own a copy of The Remains of the Day, but
yeah.
Here's the
thing.
thing.
But you will now because the 4K is coming out.
It's not a title I would go out and buy. But
sure.
If I was in a pawn shop and The Remains of the Day was $3, I would buy it.
Gotcha.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are some titles, like I don't buy a lot of titles in Dollar Tree, but there are some of those movies that I bought there because they were $1.
Yeah. So you're definitely a crazy collector, but you do it in a way that's more it's more, in a sense, it's more responsible. You wait for the movie to be as cheap as possible.
It depends on the movie. Like, if it's not something I have to have, like Thelma and Louise, I'm not waiting. I love that movie. I'm buying that. I might wait to see if that comes out late May, and then when does
Barnes and Noble sell in July?
Yeah, like I might wait till July on that just to see. But still, there are some titles that I don't mind paying full price for. I got a Rick and Morty Steelbook showed up yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, there's some things I don't mind paying $20 for, and there's other stuff like you probably do it too. There are movies that are going to come out between January and Thanksgiving, and some of them I'll look at. Some of them I have to have right away. Other ones, I'm like, oh, that's going to be a Black Friday. I make a list of titles that I'm waiting for a Black Friday. Plus, I'm friends with people at the studios that I can call and say, which titles are going to be your Black Friday titles, and find out anyway. But
yeah,
nice. Black Friday hasn't been as good. I miss the Walmart Black Friday and the Best Buy Black Friday. I like going on Thanksgiving Eve. I feel bad that people have to work, but I love the chaos of people fighting over big screen TVs, and it's all online now. It's not. I miss getting the paper on Thanksgiving morning and going through the circulars and figuring out what I'm going to buy. Like, it's all gone. That's all gone.
Yeah. Maybe it'll maybe it'll make its way back around again one day. I don't know. Who knows?
Not the way they used to be, not in store anymore.
No.
I mean, something I've been moving so much is the brick and mortar stores. The chain stores now are just completely depleted.
Yeah.
I mean,
Target is it's depressing. Like, you just going to Target, and like You know, I get it. I wish if they're gonna pull all the DVDs and Blu-rays, at least get a better selection. I've been buying a shit ton of vinyl lately, so I've been addicted to vinyl. I just posted a TikTok and on my Twitter. I spent the better part of this year. Uh, I was determined to get every legitimately released Prince album on vinyl, and I literally had 50 albums. I completed. I had some of them, but I completed the entire collection, including the rare ones and the imports that weren't released in the U.S. I love buying vinyl lately. I've been really back. It's if I've you mentioned about collecting. The thing that's harder when you have as many movies as me is every time I go into a store or pawn shop, 90% of the time I have everything. So you start to lose that this discovery thing. And after a while, when you have everything, there's nothing left to find and discover. You know, I can't.
And,
It's
and what happens with
Unfortunately,
what
yeah.
happens with a lot of the modern collectors though is they decide that they want the new version of that thing, so then that's what keeps them
they do,
going. Is
but
yeah,
where's my thing? Like here, I'll show you this. Look.
what's it going to be? I'm scared, guys. I'm scared. Whatever this is.
Could be anything.
No, but I went into like a pawn shop the other day, and these are movies that I bought, or it was a thrift shop. Freebie and the Bean. It was like $1. I didn't
Yeah,
have that. I never saw it actually. It's pretty good. Play It Against Sam, Woody Allen. Like this is
nice.
what I'm embarrassed of this one. Troop Beverly Hills. Yes, I bought this. Like I wouldn't
Shelley
pay full
Long,
price for
fantastic.
this, but it's worth $1. And Brian's Song. These are 4 movies I did not own at all.
Well, how do you? Let me ask you this: how do you keep up with what you know you have? Do you just know?
Oh, I have on my phone. I use a DVD profiler,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
and
I
I
have an
have
app
all
too.
my
Yeah.
Blu-rays on Blu-ray.com. I have the Blu-ray.com app, so I can keep track.
Yeah, I do a similar thing. I have an app
Yeah.
called My Movie Pro that I scan everything in when I get it, and
Yeah,
you know,
Blu-ray.com's been my home for like
Look,
since I started collecting Blu-rays since like
yeah,
2009,
yeah,
2010.
I have 2 accounts here. I have one for MVD Rewind Guy, and then I have a personal account that I use that people don't know that it's me, so I can go on
yeah.
there and enjoy the website without being
Nice.
hit with DMs and
Recognized.
things. So
I do yeah, I'll say this, I do miss the days, I miss the days of random movie hunting where you would go to a store and just dig through, you know, I would say aisles because we used to have aisles of movies you could dig through,
yeah,
but shelves upon shelves. I would say that would be my Saturday night, would be like doing that by myself. Even at places like Walmart, which would have giant like 7.99, 5.99
I
bins
know.
of random Blu-rays, and you would just dig through there to find whatever. I used to do that, and now those days are all gone. Just
I
they
miss
were here and now they're gone.
I miss going to. I like going to video stores and Blockbusters and going through their used titles and picking stuff out there. And there was a store that closed. There may have been the last video store here in New Jersey. There was a place called, I think it was 4 Star Video in here in Jersey, and he closed right at around the pandemic. I would have bought his store. I mean, I should have made him an offer for his store. It's just cool little video store. And he had no online presence. He had an amazing selection of video games and movies. He was selling his previewed stuff for 50 cents each, like way below what
Wow.
I would be selling it for. And he went out of business. I should have bought that store. I would love to own a video store. It'd be fun. I
Yeah,
don't know.
man.
I don't
Hey,
know if that would make any money, but it would be fun to own.
It'd be fun to run it.
it'd be fun to run it. Yeah, definitely.
I've always wanted
Yeah.
to run my own movie theater. That's always
Yeah,
been
movie
something
theater
that's
would be
been
I
mine.
cool.
think
Yeah.
how great would this be to open up like a theater, but in the front of it there's a video store in the front. Like that big ass lobby. You could put like a video store like there.
Well, they do kind of have that. It's the Alamo Draft House. I don't know if you've ever been to an Alamo
Yeah,
Draft House. Yeah, they kind of do that. Yeah,
not
and
kind of though. I would want like it would have to
A
look
full
like an
store.
'80s old school video store. At least like
yeah,
a
yeah.
portion of it. Like it doesn't have to be a huge space, but you know,
And
I
then that
think
like weird and then that weird room that usually is where the adult films are is the lead way to the movie theaters.
That's
Yeah.
Oh,
not a
the
bad
beaded
idea. You're saying that
the
you would have
beaded
to
curtain.
walk through the video store to get to
Yeah.
the. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it's kinda like the front is modeled after Suncoast Video,
Yeah,
and
I
then, like,
missed
you
some.
get
That's
towards
what
the
I missed.
back.
That's a good point. A Suncoast Video.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then
but
you're like,
yeah.
here's the adult section, and you walk through the
Yeah,
curtains,
you
and
through the
then
beaded
through that you walk
curtains.
down a hallway, and then it leads down to where the movie theaters are in the
Yeah,
Yeah,
movie. Yeah.
if you.
that's a heck of an idea.
I try to look for like when I'm out, especially like when I'm buying. And the other thing I've been buying lately is I'm ashamed to admit, but I started buying. I had gotten rid of my VHS collection. I've been buying VHS tapes left and right. I'm ashamed to admit, like literally, I just cleared off a shelf of TV stuff to put it in my back part of my basement to make room for VHS. But part of the reason why I'm buying VHS is I'm always looking for stickers to put on the rewind covers. And we don't just make them up. I want authentic stickers. Like all this,
Nice.
I think almost every sticker, first of all, most of the rewind, I don't think the no two rewind covers are alike in that we might use the same sticker once again, never in the same spot. There's always new stickers. I am constantly scanning. I bought a copy of Bull Durham just to get the sticker that said, this film has been duplicated in the EP mode. I'm like, that's a new sticker. I'm putting that on rewind.
That's
Nice.
nice. Yeah, I like
I'll
that.
say VHS is making a comeback, or at least VHS collecting. I see a lot of collectors on Instagram and
Yeah. I
TikTok
don't know how
buy.
much they're watching the tapes so much is I
Right.
feel like people are collecting VHS like pop figures. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Which
Just to
is fine.
display.
I'm doing it too. I literally walked out with an armful of tapes the other day. I was at
I
a
st
flea market.
I still have all of my VHS tapes from when I was growing up,
Oh man,
and
Yeah.
I had, like, all the Disney clamshell
it is.
cases.
I didn't keep.
I mean, I had all of the, things like, Tim Burton's Batman, the Indiana Jones films, Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. I had all of those, and I still have them all, and they're just in
Yeah,
a closet somewhere.
I have Back to the Future 3. I still don't have 1 and 2. I have Lethal Weapons 2 and 4. I don't have 1 and 3. I've been buying them. I have all my laser discs of those.
Yeah.
But but I have my original Media Home Entertainment Halloween VHS, which it was literally the direct inspiration for the Rewind collection packaging. There are some of them that I'm proud that I saved and owned, and
Yeah.
it's just, listen, we're physical media collectors, and it's part of it. There are times, what was it? Before we went to see Top Gun Maverick, I made my kids we're like, oh, let's watch Top Gun before we go see that. But I'm like, okay, if we watch Top Gun though, we're gonna watch it on VHS because I do have a VCR hooked up, and we watched Top Gun on VHS before we went to see Top Gun Maverick, which is a cool way to watch. It was a
Yeah,
great way
man.
to watch it.
No, I love that you're creating a unique experience for your kids, and
Yeah,
to do that, and it's a way for you to relate to them. That's how you watched it, and now you can share that with them. That's
I
that's
I
that's a
think it's
beautiful thing.
important, and you said you have a young child. I think it's important as collectors and film enthusiasts. I think it's important to show the next generation the importance of the tangibility of physical media, and that
Yeah,
no one in 20 years is going to be nostalgic over the Netflix menu. Do you know what I mean?
exactly.
There's
Yeah,
just not.
can't.
It's not like walking through a Blockbuster. And I know Blockbuster contributed to the death of the video store, but I don't have any ill will towards Blockbuster. But no one's going to be nostalgic for the Netflix menu the way they're nostalgic for walking through the aisle of a video store and picking out a movie.
Yeah, it's not got the same sensory
It's
experience that going into a video
not.
store and smell. You
Yeah,
get smell. You get there's so much.
it's
There's the
everything.
people you interact with.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the physicality of it all, having to get in a car or get on your bike or whatever the case may be, go down to the store, walk through the aisles, interact with the clerk,
There's so
check the
much
new
there's so
release
much more
wall.
to it
I mean,
that
there's
yeah.
so many steps to it that create memories that you don't get by sitting at home and scrolling.
What I mean, like,
Yeah.
no, who's going to be nostalgic for the movie Red Notice in 15 years or 20 years. People don't even. The problem with direct to streaming movies versus movies that come out in theaters and then come out on Blu-ray and DVD is they become part of you. The tangibility of it, the memory of seeing in the theater, the physicality of holding in your hand. That's how they become part of you or part of what you love about them. But like, I can't even. What was that? What's the name of that? I can't even remember the name of some of the. What was that Ryan Reynolds movie where he goes back in time to talk to his own kid or something?
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, see, I don't even remember.
We can't
I
even
watched the
remember the
movie.
name of that.
I can.
But we
I'm-
remember Deadpool because Deadpool was in the theaters and we have it on. We have 3 different versions of it on DVD and or Blu-ray and like. I can't remember
Yeah.
half these movies I watch on streaming. I just can't remember. Or
I agree with you. It was called the Adam Project.
yeah, the
That's what it
Adam
was called.
Project. Like it kills me that Netflix or what movie I like the one I love, that one on Apple with Tom Hanks and the robot he built.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking
Oh my
about.
goodness, I'm gonna
Why
look it
is
up because I've seen what's crazy is I've seen both of these and they just you watch them and they just
yes,
just
go away, but
disappear.
like I'm literally having trouble remember the names of them because they didn't become part of me by any way. I didn't see them in the theater. I didn't see them in a video store. I'm not able to buy them on disc, and they're easily forgotten as a result of that. And I think in the long run, Netflix and these streaming services, some of them are making decent movies, but they're doing a disservice to the films themselves, the filmmakers that worked on them, without giving them at least some sort of limited release on physical media.
And theatrical exhibition. I think
And
that's
I
the
agree with
movie-
you, theatrical exhibition as well. And I
movie
think
was called
Netflix is making a big mistake. I mean, it's all fine and good that their movies can trend for a couple of days and then they're gone.
Yeah, the movie that you're talking about is called Finch. The one with
God,
Tom
did you
Hanks.
see that?
I did.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I've watched it 3 times. Like I don't want to buy a bootleg. You know, there's guys on. I've seen them online that make nice bootlegs of them, but I don't like buying those.
Yeah, that's the one. I guess I mean that's the one of the other kind of bigger issues when it comes to a lot of the streaming stuff. Is they never end up coming out on Blu-ray. There are movies that have been out for years on streaming services that haven't seen
Never
the light of day on physical media yet.
Yeah.
You know what the Coen Brothers movie, Buster Scruggs, right, Steve?
I forgot.
That's a Coen Brothers movie.
I forgot that existed, and I hate it. I hate it when a streamer takes one of my filmmakers to make movies for their service, because then now all of a sudden my Coen Brothers collection will always be incomplete because they didn't put a release on there of that.
It's the same thing with Soderbergh with the stuff he's doing for like HBO Max. I mean, Martin Scorsese. Luckily, we got The Irishman.
Well,
Criterion intervened on that.
I don't know how that happened, but I think Scorsese and Noah Baumbach probably have enough power that they. I don't know how it happened, but in my head, this is how it happens. They say, I'll do a movie for you, but you have to give this Criterion and gets to put it out on disc.
Yeah, they probably made a contract up front,
Got to be on there because
it's got to be in the deal. It must be in the
I
contract.
think more filmmakers should throw a little bit of their weight around like that and think of the collectors. Even if Netflix did a limited release, we're only making 10,000 of this. Fine, make 10,000 and let the diehards get their hands on it.
Yeah,
I mean, even licensing it out to a boutique label, you get the licensing money, so it's not like you're not getting anything back for it. Maybe you cut a deal where you get part of the sales. I don't know how that would work, but I'm just saying
you would think that
there are ways to do it.
There are ways to do it, and maybe one of them one night will be on your YouTube channel and see this and say, "I'll license Finch to Eric."
Well, let's
put it on a Blu-ray. You run it. You make it available for a limited time. Inside the pocket, you put a slip in there for 1 free month of Apple Plus TV. You buy the disc, you get a free month of Apple Plus TV.
Bam. Yeah, he's got the answers for you guys. So Apple, if you're listening, get that Finch 4K out there.
For those of you listening, I mean, I don't think Apple needs any promos, but they put a lot of money into their products. If you're talking about the digital world and the companies putting money into things, they put tons of money into their productions.
Their shows it's funny. I continue to subscribe to that, and I rarely use it, but I just had a habit. Um, Sometimes I just like paying for things, even if I'm not watching all the time, because when something does come on, I know I can see it. But I agree with you. Apple TV's content, whether it's a TV series or a movie, they spare no expense. You're not getting the volume you get with a Netflix, but when something shows up on there, it is worth watching.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've you can tell in certain streamers where they cut a little bit from a budget here and there.
Yeah,
You could see some green screen stuff coming through. I think
you can.
Netflix is kind of one of those, but Apple not so much. Apple looks like big theatrical
Apple
things.
treats their movies the same way they make their phones and their iPads and everything else, man. It's just it's a uh, they're about quality. Apple's always been associated with quality, and it's no different with their movies and stuff. So good for them. I wish I you know they sell. I wish they would put out. I wish, like you said, license to a boutique label. If I was Apple, I'd be licensing the movies. I feel like Vinegar Syndrome with their packaging is a good match for Apple. I don't know, but
Uh, you never, slowly but
Time
surely,
will tell.
more of the streaming services are starting to open up just a tad bit to some of these labels. But
Yeah, I mean, when
I've
Disney just said they were going to do it, you know that there's
yeah,
some teams that are going to do it.
there's a twinkle of hope. But
there
I
is.
feel like
But Disney's deal with Mill Creek, granted, that was an existing deal that lasted for a while. So I think it was probably an extension of their relationship. So much as I would
Right.
if you're a collector and you don't have the Disney titles that Mill Creek is distributing it, I would buy them now while it's still happening because a
yeah,
lot of these guys, you know, Paramount, thank God, finally got the memo, and they've been doing some great stuff lately with their Paramount. Oh, what's it called? Paramount Presents series.
yeah.
Um, uh, if you're a collector, all I would say, and it's a good way if you want to close this up, is support the labels of the movies that you like. Buy the movies because if the sales aren't there, they're gonna pull back. So don't give them a reason to not keep releasing stuff on disc. I try to buy that Paramount stuff I've been supporting because I'd love to see them keep doing what they're doing.
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's a great way to end, man. That's yeah. Please support your labels, support your physical media, and of course keep an eye on MVD, man. They got a lot of cool stuff coming out.
We're
Um,
trying. We're
yeah,
trying.
keep doing your thing, man. I very much appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate what you're doing with MVD because I can tell there's a lot after this conversation. I can tell there's a lot of passion behind it, and I think that will come across, and I hope that this conversation, the passion that they see here, will make them more excited to want to go get more MVD titles because I think obviously you put a lot into it. So
Yeah,
it's
I appreciate the kind words, and I didn't mean to take up. Like you could see, like I could talk for hours on this. I know you
of
wanted to make a
course.
Of
shorter
course.
interview, but
No,
To
no.
be honest, this is all I think about all day long,
it's
every
all I
single
think
day.
about too, man. It's just
We've had longer conversations. Trust me.
Right.
We did a 2.5 hour with Kat Ellinger that was about politics and film and all. So we can do long ones,
Right.
but yeah, my wife might kill me if I don't go upstairs eventually. So
but
uh,
I really enjoyed this today, and like I said, when you run out of guests in the future, like let's call Eric. I mean, I would absolutely do this again. It's a
great.
lot.
When we bring guests back, we typically like to make it a more focused conversation. So
Sure.
we'll just come up with something that we all really want to get nerdy about, and we'll talk about that thing, and then
Oh,
we'll do
yeah,
it again.
like a something to do with MVD. Like if there's a big,
A
that
particular
kind of that release
film
that you
or
teased you were working
yeah,
on.
yeah. We'll nerd about it for an hour or so, or
Sure.
2 hours, and we'll
I
do
mean,
it, man.
this is like
So
it doesn't take much to get like even before we started recording, we start talking about collecting, and we kill 15 minutes. I'm like, oh shit, we're not even recording this. I mean, like it
shit,
wouldn't take much.
no, it doesn't
Yeah,
take much to get us going.
Yeah.
it moves by
But
fast.
Eric, thanks again for joining us, and
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
yeah, no problem, man. We hope you have a good rest of your night.